What impact has this had on your brand?
It's just had such a big impact on my own mind and my own heart, quite honestly. And it's just the beginning.
Is there anything that scared you about that opportunity with Apple?
Of course. Oh my gosh. The whole year I was scared. And what a gift. What a gift. Pressure is a gift, right? This is the best idea in the world. This is the worst idea in the world. People are gonna love it. Nobody's gonna care. All of that is part of the process.
Do you think something should be designed not for disabled people?
Exactly. So, and that's part of this too.
This is the What Comes Next podcast with your hosts, Keely Catwells and Dana Randall, where we use real stories to explore the future of accessibility, inclusion, and the ideas shaping what comes next. These episodes are sponsored by Making Space and Level Access, powered by AW360, Advertising Week's year-round content platform.
Welcome to What Comes Next, a show exploring products designed with accessibility in mind and the campaigns that brought them to life. I'm your host, Dana Randall, Executive Creative Director from Level Access.
And I'm your co-host, Keely Catwells, CEO and founder of Making Space.
On the show today, 3D phone case designer Bailey Hikawa discusses how she designed and marketed the Hikawa phone grip for iPhone, released in collaboration with Apple in 2025, and now an expanded release of new colorways in market this month. We talk about the brand impact of this accessible first product.
Hi everyone, I am Keely Catwells. I am a white woman with long, blonde, wavy hair. Behind me is a staircase and some open windows. And kicking it off, Bailey, I would love to know about your designs. You are known for making 3D iPhone cases that are both artful and functional. You mentioned previously that you believe that meaningful design happens at the intersection of art and lived experience. Is there a particular experience that you had that made you curious about disabled users and designing accessible phone cases?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I am honored to be here. My name is Bailey. I am a half Japanese, half Caucasian woman. I have dark hair and I'm in my living room with a white background and a silver lamp. I am so excited to talk about these things with you all. And I would say that I've been designing iPhone cases and accessories for 7 years. I became excited about designing for people with disabilities, mostly due to feedback. So actually, the designs and the concepts as art came first. And later, the function and my interest in even just engineering in general grew and came second.
So, Bailey, you decided to make an accessible phone case, as you had mentioned, wasn't intended purely for accessibility. Can you walk us through your design process and also bring us through how the disability community became part of that process and really what your process was? You said you got some feedback. Can you tell us a little bit about that feedback and then how you reacted and responded to that feedback to make the product that is actually in market today?
Yes, of course. It's hard not to start from the very beginning. And so I'll make this a shorter story, though it is such a long process as all products that come into this world, I believe, are.
And we want it all. Don't hesitate to throw in the messy details. We want every part of it.
Okay, great. Well, so I would say that I'm an artist. I went to art school. I studied painting and drawing. And so I come to industrial design through the lens of an artist. And the first phone case I ever designed was for an iPhone 6. And I glued a giant piece of wood on the back of this clear case. And I came back to my studio after just kind of playing around, and it was propped up. So it was standing up. And I was like, oh, that's fun. So I put it on the back of my iPhone 6 and was walking around, and people of all kinds and everyone, all genders, all age ranges, the post office woman, my neighbor, they all just saw this thing on the back of my phone and had a visceral somatic reaction. Some people hated it. Some people just loved it. Some fascinated. Anyway, this brought me to, and I tell that story because in fact, the guidelines for my design process have always been people and other people, and they're like watching people light up from an object was so interesting to me as a painter and an artist. It's like, okay, well, so I make a painting and it exists in a gallery and 200 people see it. There was something about touching the people in my everyday life and seeing them truly react that I felt connected to and had me kind of follow that path. I started making as many wild ideas as possible. I didn't restrain myself. I said I knew there was something to this and I wanted to follow it and expand on it. So I made a bunch of designs and kind of whittled it down to a few truly usable phone case designs. And it's always been important to me that they function as well as being art objects. So my two pillars of starting my business was, does this stand up the phone in two different ways, vertically and horizontally? And does it transform the phone into an art object fully? So a lot of people, even at the time, said, can it just come on and off? Does it have to be the whole phone case? And I was like, no, it's really important that it's the whole thing. Like, I want the whole thing to become something else. So I started selling these phone cases and, I sold one, then I sold two, then I sold four. It was slow build, slow growth. And people over the years would write me. I'm a sole entrepreneur, so I'm behind all my emails, I'm behind the DMs, I'm doing the returns, the shipping, everything. And people would write me and say, hey, I love this thing. I have arthritis and it feels so good in my hand. I cannot live without it. They would say, this one broke. I need your designs. Please send me another one. So it was a combination of, oh, wow, okay, so this is actually working for different bodies, different people in ways that I couldn't have expected. And then, even closer to me, my mother is just such an important person in my life and is a musician and has struggled over the years with different hand stuff. And so I've always thought of her in mind. And as soon as I started getting more and more feedback with different people saying that it was helping with different things, it sparked a real genuine curiosity how to lean into an object that can be even more accessible.
I must say, as someone who has arthritic hands, it was game changing. I loved it so, so much. And I'd be curious to learn more about the design process and if you co-designed with people with disabilities or who you brought into that process. How did that work? What were the feedback loops like?
The design process for my phone cases over the past 6 years have been really specifically both my own relationship to my body's feedback and gathering feedback from people, from users, but I would say inadvertently and not intentionally. And so what was really different about the Hikawa grip and stand product feedback and working with Apple is the intentionality to develop a new product that was going to use voices from the disability communities, the many disability communities, to inform the design as much as possible. And so, and like I said, in a way, it already aligned with my iterative process because I do love people's feedback, though it can be uncomfortable to receive. It's so important. So actually this product, this new Hikawa grip and stand with Apple was a really unique design process.
So Bailey, I love that, you started this product design from the lens of art and something that was aesthetically and functionally appealing to you. And then you started to get feedback from, you mentioned someone who had arthritis. Something that kind of comes to mind personally for me is I don't have arthritis, but I have hypermobility. So the ergonomics of a product is really important because it sounds kind of weird or gross, but my fingers can dislocate. And the way that we hold our phones, especially when doing things like taking photos, videos, and some of these actually, pretty much their primary functions of those devices today, probably more than having calls. But I'm curious, what other areas within the disability community popped up? I think arthritis is one that I don't want to say is obvious, but were there other groups that gave you feedback that took you by surprise?
Yes. And I spoke to people from a huge range, which made the process harder, and also more interesting because it kind of narrowed what is possible, which we can talk about. The thinking behind how to design something for everyone, knowing that not one product can solve any one whole body of people. But essentially, I spoke to people with cerebral palsy, non-speaking autism, muscular dystrophy, tetraplegic, which based in the UK, also paraplegic is what we call it in the US. I spoke to somebody who was blind. I spoke to somebody who had chronic pain, just mysterious joint pain, which is also important to acknowledge, and a stroke survivor who was paralyzed on one side of their body. So the vast conversations that I did have of differing abilities was pretty far from each other. But that also made the design process really interesting because I knew that, so I had these 50-minute virtual and in-person conversations with people. So some people I met with, and then some people I talked to on a virtual platform. And because I'm an artist, I was kind of like, okay, I know I'm rethinking this idea of design research, or, this isn't based in a certain number research scientific method. But what I really wanted to do was listen as carefully as I could and closely as possible, ask as many questions about people's relationship to their phones and how they use technology, and kind of let their stories and their experience wash over my own body so that I could take that to the design table and figure out where there were patterns and what design elements I thought were really important to put in one design. Knowing that with all this information, the truth is there has to be many designs. We just need more options for our phones. And something that I like to tell people is, or ask people is, do we use one pair of shoes for everything? It's like, no, I have outing shoes. I have hiking shoes. I have running shoes. And it's a really interesting thing. We use our phones for everything in our lives. And they are really flat and hard. And so I'm a proponent of change it up, change. Our body wants different things at different times, movement. So I am a proponent of many designs for many bodies and many people.
I love that. And Dana, I won't speak for you, but I feel like from the conversations that we have had previously, we both live with a disability that can change day to day and in different environments. So that really, really resonates. I love that you're building for that. I think a common misconception about accessibility is that it is expensive. But given that the Hikawa Griffin stand is priced similar to other iPhone cases or other phone cases in general, I'm assuming that there wasn't any added cost.
I think developing a new product in general, there's added cost because there's time and research and prototyping. So I can't say that just, releasing an entirely new product that there's no added cost, but I can say that it is not necessarily any different. My design process wasn't different than designing something for people who identify as not having disabilities.
To dig in on that slightly, do you think there is something that should be designed not for disabled people?
Exactly. And that's part of this too. I feel like in a way, yes, I was asking people and I was using disabilities and people who identify as having disabilities as this like kind of starting point for this design. But in speaking to so many people and so many varying experiences, I mean, what I found first of all is that no, we all are the same. Humans want to feel independent. Humans want to feel like they can take care of themselves. There is pride in being connected to community. There is life force in knowing that you're loved by your family. How do we have these things? Through our phones. And everybody, whether you have a disability or not, uses their phone as an assistive device to connect to the outside world. And, I think if we design for or ask questions from these very specific experiences, we can actually just discover more of a universal human experience, is my belief.
What would you say? What advice would you give to a designer who is maybe feeling a bit discouraged by, you had mentioned like, hey, there's prototyping, and prototyping can be costly. And perhaps with the feedback that you're getting in order to make sure that the product's hitting the mark for this wide audience of potential users, you may have a couple more rounds of prototyping. That's just a reality in order to make it land. So what advice would you give to a designer out there who is possibly feeling discouraged by the reality that making it accessible might mean more rounds of prototyping, maybe some additional costs? What would you say to them in order to really encourage them to kind of keep going and keep on that path forward?
I think I would encourage them to follow their fascination. And there's something about the creative process and the process of bringing an idea to life that, there's many stages. This is the best idea in the world. This is the worst idea in the world. People are going to love it. Nobody's going to care. All of that is part of the process. And I found for myself that if I follow my genuine curiosity, what kind of lights my fire inside, and for me, that is asking people about their own experience. I love doing that at parties even. I'll just be like, so tell me about your job. What is it? I believe that genuine curiosity can take you to the end. And that said, money is real. It is expensive to prototype. So I think a lot of people too, like when I launched my phone cases in 2019, I did naively think that these were going to be the final iterations. I launched this, we're off. Oh, no. They release an iPhone every year. The camera changes, the wide angle changes, the technology changes. So I now, and in a way, I'm really lucky for that. Like being in the iPhone product launch cycle has actually taught me that product development is so iterative. I've been working on the same design for 6 years. Keeps changing. So it's part of it. And I would definitely also encourage people to release into the world imperfect objects. Obviously, being open to iteration after that.
So we've touched on it about the fact that this product, the phone grip and stand, was done with collaboration with Apple. I mean, Apple, in many cases, when it comes to phones, is the holy grail. So take us through, how did this collaboration come to be? How did it happen? You had mentioned your first iteration was in 2019. In, what was it, November 2025, first Hikawa phone grip and stand was brought into market and sold out with Apple. Take us through, how did this collab happen? How did you call them? Did they call you? I'm sure everyone would love to know how to reach that moment, because that is, I think, for a lot of product designers, like the ultimate.
I feel really lucky to have worked with them on this project. And I've been making iPhone case specific accessories for 7 years before I interfaced with Apple. The collaboration came about because they were looking to celebrate the 40th year of accessibility at Apple. And, they have incredible accessibility features that are software specific. And there aren't as many hardware, like kind of like physical objects that they've done. So they came to me and asked if I was interested in this problem, or this, looking at what this was and how we could celebrate it by really asking the community. And so it was through Apple's approach to accessibility that aligned with my own relationship to community feedback, I think that it was able to work out, because I was really excited about talking to the community.
Was there anything that scared you about that opportunity with Apple?
Of course. Oh my gosh. The whole year I was scared. And what a gift. What a gift. Pressure is a gift, right? And actually, you know what I would say? I almost feel more scared speaking with the accessibility disabled community and all the communities, because on some level, I identify as able-bodied today. I believe that disability is part of the human experience, depending on when it happens, but just making sure that I was designing in the most authentic way that was listening versus putting my own experience. That was actually the thing that scared me the most. I wanted to make sure that I could actually represent and give something to people that they could actually use. That's really all I cared about. At the end of the day, can be a product, doesn't work, doesn't matter.
And talking about getting it out into the world and into the hands of the community, what did that look like? How did you authentically market this product? How did Apple ensure that this was getting in front of the right eyes and into the hands of the people who need it most? What was that experience like?
Well, in my own design process and with the design panel of the people from disabled communities, I gave them prototypes. So in this like kind of iterative process, early prototypes that kind of changed. And so I gave them the product, and it's kind of always been part of the way that I have grown, and maybe not even part, maybe entirely, is it's an object. The phone cases I design are big and they're not invisible. They are loud. And people have taken it upon themselves to share about my work, because it's kind of this like loud object in an interaction. And so they share online, they share through in-person experiences. And I think with this is a similar thing, where it's like, it's not pretending that it doesn't exist. It is very, you can't really ignore this thing on the back of a phone. And so actually, I think design that sparks in-person connection can be a lot more powerful than just an ad, though advertising is also really helpful.
Of course. It's so powerful because I feel like it's such a important thread for the community. It's like for so long the disabled community has been told to shrink and be invisible and erase themselves and just and be small and not be proud about being disabled. And it's like this product challenges that entire narrative. It's like, no, we are proud of being disabled. We are proud of being in this community. And that is such a great representation of that feeling.
It's such a conversation starter. And I don't think you think of many assistive technologies through that lens, but in this case, I have to imagine you said it's not small, it's not shrinking, it's very much in your face and in a positive way. I can imagine that someone carrying their phone in this case, people will be curious and they'll ask them questions and I feel like it's this opportunity to start a narrative about whether it's apparent or non-apparent disabilities. And I think that's so empowering. I wonder also, your brand is being known to create these accessible products for the disability community. What impact has this had on your brand?
It's just had such a big impact on my own mind and my own heart, quite honestly. And it's just the beginning in my own design process in terms of asking people what they need, trying to design for it, and again, offering, I think, as many options as possible. So at the moment, I'm working on a few other MagSafe grips that are maybe for very, very small identified hands, or, just kind of, I've now had different conversations, and just it's been really fun to realize that this is a longer road and a way bigger conversation than just a momentary one product. And the other thing I'll say is, the somatic relationship that we have with our phones, this kind of like unconscious textural, I think it's helping. The more I talk about disabilities and different experiences and different bodies and kind of bring that to the surface of the conversation in my design process, the more people are having their own body awareness about their relationship to their phone. And that to me is just a universal, interesting conversation. So I'm just excited feels really good.
With that, obviously the Hikawa phone grip and stand did incredibly well on its first drop with Apple. It sold out. You had mentioned, options. So can you talk to us a little bit about what's happening? We are very intentionally timed with this podcast that currently in market, the second drop is available in market now. Talk to us a little bit about the second drop and how that came to be and what's new in that drop.
Well, I have a few samples here. We have 3 new colors that are available. Wow. I know, I'm very excited.
So I'd love to describe these for the audience. So the first one that you're showing is a bright pink and orange, sort of would you call it like a marbled or like a tie-dyed pattern? And then the grip, it's swirly. And the grip itself is a kind of a bold triangle shape that clips onto the back. It's got a hole in the middle for your thumb possibly to go through. And the triangle or pyramid shape has some curves to it. And now the second one you're showing, Bailey, can you describe this colorway to us?
Yeah, this colorway is kind of like a light. I was inspired by a stone. I wanted it to feel kind of like a natural white, neutrals, black and white, speckled stone feeling. And then
And then
this,
let's
and then the
see. The
third
third one.
is very fun. It's a blue, slightly translucent colorway that is also glow in the dark,
Oh, wow.
and
Oh,
which is very fun. More of an accessibility touch too. Can't find your phone at night in the bedroom.
I don't know that that shade would be called cerulean blue, but I don't know. I just came off of watching The Devil Wears Prada too, so I think it's pretty close. It's pretty
I
close
think
to
it
a
is.
cerulean blue. I think it might
As a
be.
painter, I would say it's a cerulean blue.
Well,
Maybe
there
a
we have it.
touch of white in there.
So, any fans of The Devil Wears Prada, this might be the color for you.
I love it. I'm getting the pink one for sure. Obsessed. So, Bailey, what do you want to see come next for accessible design in the phone case or physical product space?
Well, this past year I had a booth at the Abilities Expo. Have either of you been to an Abilities Expo? You have. Okay, it was really great. And I think what I noticed the most was people's excitement to this idea of not being invisible, a product for people with disabilities that is loud and proud and also beautiful and will be in someone's home. I'm excited about how we can further this conversation with objects and how they can be multifunctional and multi-generational, not just for one generation or one group of people, but how we can really share experience through design.
To keep it on brand with our podcast, What Comes Next? Bailey, in this case, what comes next for you is kind of now because it's in market now. But with that aside, with the second drop of the Hikawa phone grip and stand, what comes next after that?
What comes next for me is continuing this conversation and listening to more people and more experiences and designing more options for our phones and for our bodies and how we relate to technology.
It's amazing. Bailey, thank you so much for sharing your story and your product with us and with the community. And yeah, we're just excited to support this product launch, this second drop, and just congratulations on your amazing success.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. I'm really grateful that you asked me. So thank you.
Thank you. Huge fan of your work. This is amazing conversation.
Thanks for checking out the What Comes Next podcast, sponsored by Making Space and Level Access, powered by AW360, Advertising Week's year-round content platform. Subscribe now so you never miss an episode on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are available.